Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Heath Bar. I know you've missed me. I've missed you guys too. I have been gone for quite a while. Work has sent me, my day job, sent me to Taiwan for a spell early January. And it was pretty cool. I don't know if you've ever been to Asia or any part of the world over there, but it's a whole different experience. Definitely recommend trying it out. I know it's not for everyone. I ate some squid, I ate some octopus, I ate some sea urchin. I pretty much tried it all, and it was not bad. You know, I'm still here, and I enjoy all kinds of foods, so that was a great experience. But anyway, I'm back, and the Heath Bar is back, and we've got a really good one for you today, folks. And while that chat's being tapped, let me give you a few updates on what's going on with me as well as the show. First off, this weekend, that's February 14th and 15th, that's right, folks, Valentine's Day, I'll be at Flanagan's Irish Pub in Spearfish, South Dakota, slinging some tunes, having some good brews and a good time. So if you guys are out and about in Spearfish and you want to come say hi and join in on the fun, you can find me there both Friday and Saturday night, 9 o'clock to midnight, or until I feel like I'm done playing. Sometimes you go longer. It is Flanagan's, folks. You all know how that goes. Also, the following weekend, right after this weekend, I will be at Santana's Sports Bar and Lounge in the Deadwood Mountain Grand in Deadwood, South Dakota. I'll be playing there Friday and Saturday night as well. Same times, 9 p.m. to midnight. So come hang out, play some slots, win some money, and listen to yours truly slinging tunes all night long. Also, there's some really cool things coming down the pipeline for the show here at the Heath Bar. In addition to the conversations that we've been having, I'm putting together some series of shows, and many different series of shows, I guess, rather would be a better way to say that, to keep the episodes coming to you consistently. So you're not wondering when the next one's going to hit. You know when it's going to come. Sometimes it's going to be a conversation. Let me clarify. Most times it's going to be a conversation because that's what this show is about. And I love having chats. I love talking with people, and I'm going to keep doing that. But every now and then, you're going to hear some more in-depth stuff from me. Stuff about my songs, maybe some stories behind them, some things that I'm interested in, things that I like talking about and I like thinking about and would like to engage with some of you on. So if you hear some of those episodes and it's just me sitting there talking to myself, I'm actually talking to you. And would love some feedback and love some interaction with you on those episodes as well. So be on the lookout for some of those coming down the line here at the Heath Bar. And last but not least, before we get into this week's conversation, you can always hit me up online. You can hit me up with my email, heath@heathbaronline.com. You can find me on Instagram at @the_heath.bar. Facebook as well. I'm also on Twitter at Heath Johnson. It's just my name. Those are the best ways to get in touch with me. If you have things you wanna talk about, or just say hi or say you're enjoying the show, I love to hear that kind of stuff. Or if you want to leave a review or something like that on iTunes, that always helps as well. I do see those, I do read those, and I am always appreciative when people have been enjoying the conversations of all of the people that make up our community up here in the Black Hills and the surrounding areas. There's some awesome people, and I'm really glad that I get the opportunity to sit down and chat with all of them. So I hope you've been digging them. And if you know of anyone that you think is super awesome and has some great stuff around our area here, I would love to get to know them. I would love to chat with them. So again, shoot me an email, get in touch with me, and let's make that happen. Also, I'm looking for ad sponsors. I do want to clarify. By ad sponsors, I mean local and regional businesses. I'm not looking for, national or global conglomerates. I'm looking to keep this local and keep this regional, just like the people on the show. So if you or you know of someone that has a business that they would like to do some advertising in the Heath Bar, again, shoot me an email, heath@heathbaronline.com. Okay, enough of all of that. Folks, this conversation that I'm about to share with you is amazing. I had such a great time talking with this guy. It's always funny when you first meet someone, you never really know how it's going to go out, and you're kind of, feeling each other out a little bit and seeing, how things are going to go. This was very quickly into the conversation. I realized that this is going to be a fun one. The guy's name is Clayton Ryan, and he just moved up here a month and a half, a couple months ago from Iowa. His dad lives up here, and he finished school down there, and he decided to move up here to the Black Hills. He's a local, I guess, a singer-songwriter. Goes by Clayton Ryan and the Singing Mountain. And he's been playing music for a very, very long time. He went to school for it and has spent a lot of time in jazz music, playing the upright bass in orchestras. And we talked a lot about the differences between that type of music when you're a singer-songwriter, kind of a solo thing, doing it yourself, or even in a rock band, what practices and organizing that looks like versus the musicians that go kind of, to school for, and they're going through sheet music and their rehearsal times and everything like that, and the differences between the two, because he's lived in both. And I found that incredibly interesting to talk about. It's things that I had never really thought about, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I really hope you will too. In fact, I know you will. We talk about a lot of other fun stuff too, but I'm going to save that for the chat itself. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Heath Bar, give it up for Clayton Ryan. Welcome to the Heath Bar, where the conversations are always on tap. Well, let's crack them open and cheers, man. Ooh, yeah. Cheers.
Salud.
Welcome to the Heath Bar.
Thank you.
So you gotta clarify for me real quick. Is it Clayton or Clay?
Clayton, and all my teachers ever have called me Clay.
Your teachers. Okay.
They've called me Cole, Colton. I was Quentin once.
Just a plethora of different names.
Yeah, it just depends on how someone is feeling that day and saying that name.
Do you find yourself having to clarify your name? Because Clayton's a pretty, when I hear it, it's like, oh, well, I know how to say it and I know how to spell it. I'm not like...
there's so much going on in my head that I'm thinking about that when someone says my name wrong, I don't really think about it and I let them kind of notice it and maybe just...
they'll fix it later.
Yeah, and you can tell because they might go back and just say it and act like nothing happened. And there's that little moment you have between each other. It's never been a big deal. I know they're addressing me. Like that's the the important part.
I did that once the bad way. I was talking to he was an ex-boyfriend of my ex-sister-in-law, and I called him by her ex's name instead of his name. And then I just didn't acknowledge it, and we moved on with the night, and he didn't acknowledge it either. So I know that feeling, and it's fucking horrible.
walking on a tightrope the rest of the night, waiting for, hey, by the way, about earlier.
Yeah. In my defense, there was a lot of alcohol and tequila that night. That was at least 8 or 9 years ago, though. It was a long time ago. When I was young and could still do it, But, I guess I shouldn't be talking like you're not 30, not even close, right?
There were days I felt like it, but I realized being 24 is so young, and that was definitely a thing. But you're saying about me being 30 is that towards about my junior and senior year of college, which I went for 5.5 years, so that's probably about the middle time of my college. But I definitely was feeling 30 and kind of accepting that was how life was going to be. It's like, oh, whatever. I feel like I know how the world is, and so I have to feel old and jaded. And I had friends, and we were all that were the same way. And I was bandmates with a good friend that was the same way. And just I don't know what happened, but one day we just decided it's not fun to play the old bitch in the back. That's, no one thinks it's interesting. No one thinks you know more. It's just you're a downer.
It's easy to do though. There's something about movies do this to us. They make us think like the cool guy in the back who's just angry at everything in the shadows. He ends up being like the hero of the day or whatever. I keep thinking of the guy off of Lord of the Rings sitting in the background, and he ends up being like a secret king or something like that.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, he's brooding. He's got knowledge that we don't possess, and it makes us think that that's cool. But at the end of the day, you're right. You're just missing out on a party that's happening in the front.
Plenty of time. Yeah, everyone, and when you are that person that's being the old jaded person, you like to think also when people see you that they think you're the wise old person. And so in your mind, It's this loop of I gotta look this way so that I'll act this way, and I gotta act this way so that I'll look that way. When in fact, no one cares anymore because they just don't want to talk to you at all.
We kind of live in a world where everyone assumes you don't know everyone doesn't know what they're talking about, and it doesn't matter. I told my daughter that. I was like, if you want to wait around for someone else to come call you and hang out, like it's never going to happen. Like be the one to go out there and do it. And I don't know. I did that for several years. I remember doing that. Not even outside of college. I'm like, life's been shitty lately. I'm going to sit back and just, sit down and write some notes on people and maybe make some songs out of it. And I never wrote a damn song about any of it. It just was me sitting in the back drinking a bourbon because, you got to drink something that looks cool,
Yeah, if it doesn't come out of a square glass bottle or it's got some sort of old guy's picture on it, it's not a real alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely.
Colonel Rogers, 12-year reserve or Buffalo Hide, 14-year barrel-aged maple cask.
If that's not a thing yet, I feel like you might be onto something and starting your own distillery, man.
Man, I worked in a liquor store, and so...
Did you really?
I did. I worked my last job before this. I worked in a liquor store, and part of the job, we were distributing liquor to all the businesses, all the bars, restaurants in the area. It was fun doing that, but when you work at a counter like that and you realize people come in and will spend... So you have people that'll spend so much money on something that honestly doesn't... maybe I'm just the unrefined palate, but I've tried $250 scotch and I've tried $40 scotch, and I've tried $40 scotches that I loved far more than I could ever love $250 scotch. So you got that going on, but also people coming in that are paying for a bottle of grain alcohol with quarters and dimes, and you're sitting there you can't tell them to go away because they're paying,
and it's legitimate currency. You still got to take them.
It would have been better if they'd had some pouch of British pounds, just placed it on the table, there you go, it's all in there.
Oh man, I can't accept this, but I'm gonna do it anyway just because you did it.
It would be more convenient, honestly.
I've only ever shopped at liquor stores. I've never worked at one, but I have a few friends that have, and I kind of have my go-tos. I have my staples. This is the bourbon I like. This is the beer I get, and that just kind of is what it is. And then every now and then when I go in there and I buy something different, they're like, oh, trying something new. I'm like, well, it's not for me. I figured it wasn't.
Yeah.
When they start to know what you like to buy, I feel like maybe I should. I don't know. I have my liquor store that I go to. I don't shop around. I have my favorite one, and that's where I go.
Well, being a regular at a liquor store doesn't make you an alcoholic. If you're a regular at the store, it just means that that's the place to get what you need. If you're, you got to also be a regular in the rest of your life. Right. Because if you're a regular for the rest of your life, you're not an alcoholic.
Right. Yeah. It's not my, I have other things at home that I drink. It's not just this, I have water coming out of my refrigerator and I drink that also. But
what's the bourbon then that you go with?
So my go-to is Bullet bourbon, with the orange label. The rye is also good with the green label, the whiskey.
Green label.
But it's I don't know, 20, 25, $28 and lasts quite a while, and it's smooth. I dig it.
For sure. Yeah.
There's a lot that I like, but that's my it's staple that I always have.
Absolutely.
At my home bar, if you could call it that, it's a couple bottles of bourbon and rum and vodka, and that's about it.
Is that the actual location of the Heath Bar?
It is, and it will be a place. I kid you not. I'm working on getting it built. I'm getting the plans laid out, and I'm going to get a studio built, and it'll be my music studio / podcast studio, but it's going to look like a bar. So it's going to have the whole bar feel, but it's also a studio, and I can't wait.
Yeah, that's cool. Good. Yeah, you can get a video component.
That's
going.
right.
People
do a
see.
YouTube channel or something like that, and have a cool backdrop where it looks like you're in this old pub or something like that. I'm debating between the pub or the dive bar feel, and maybe I'll try to find a mixture of both and call it good. Because I like both of those bars. I'm not a big fancy bar kind of person. Yeah. I enjoy a nice martini every now and then, but I don't go to those bars.
Yeah, that's an investment in your night if you're getting martinis.
Right.
You know, you've planned other things along with that. You know, like you're going somewhere else. You're going to see a show.
Yeah.
You're going to see a movie. Whatever you wore is going to be a fit for both the theater and for the martini bar.
Yeah, I mean, there's usually a jacket involved, and I don't know. I've been to a few. There's a martini bar in Rapid, the 445. It's really good. They make some really good martinis. And then the Speakeasy, the Blind Lion. Have you heard of that place?
I have. Those are both on my list.
Okay.
And I just don't do anything outside of work these days. I'm still only. This would only be about like a month. I'm only a month and a half into being here, and so I just haven't really gone a lot of places yet.
Throw those on your list because they're really cool. The Blind Lion is like 1920s, 1930s speakeasy. Yeah. The drinks are all like that, and it's a blast. It's like this giant safe door. You got to know a code to get in and everything. It's pretty cool, and they do music too, man. So you could maybe check them out and see if they got any openings in that. But
it's probably why I haven't gone there. I don't know the code.
Yeah, it changes. It changes every week, I think. And then, but usually you just call in and get it. I think I don't know how they do it. Every time I've ever walked in there, it's been by accident, and they've just let me in. So I don't know. I've never known a code either. But their tobacco-infused whiskey is really tasty. So you mentioned you've been up here a month and a half. So I guess we should state that you moved here from Iowa.
I did.
Fairly recently. Yeah. And you were in college there. Not originally from Iowa, though, right?
I was born in Phoenix.
Okay.
And my family moved to Iowa when I was 4. And so, I mean, I'd call myself an Iowan because I grew up there and went through high school.
Okay, gotcha.
Went to all my, first learned to ride a bike there. That's the bookmark.
You grew up
there.
in, that's me with Nebraska. I was born in Illinois, but I grew up in Nebraska, moved there when I was 5, and that was it. So I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I mean, it is. Iowa's one of those states. Like I lived in Iowa for 4 years, just across the border from Nebraska. I mean, when you live there, everyone has jokes about their state, and the surrounding states, So it's always. I'm sure you've heard them and said them.
Oh, yep. On the way here, I said to myself, driving in the car, like, fucking Nebraska.
They're the worst. A buddy of mine, still lives in Nebraska, and he hates the state. And he's always making all these posts about how mad he is at some of the decisions and stuff they're making. Like, dude, you could always move, man. It's a possibility these days, Well,
we talk about Nebraska and Iowa. I had a friend that I went to college with, a good friend of mine, and he was the only one that was from Nebraska. So obviously he was in a 10-1 match against people talking shit about Nebraska.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, no stranger to that state rivalry.
Okay.
Which they're both somewhat equivalent in terms of geography, in terms of how people are, in terms of the music scene. And so it's really just a matter of trying to be the better piece of shit.
You're right.
That's how it is between Iowa and Nebraska.
See, I think it's fun. I enjoy rivalries. Like I'm a Bears fan in football, and family thing. And all of my friends are Packers fans, Vikings fans, But they always talk shit, and I never do because I'm a Bears fan. We usually lose, so I just don't ever say anything. But it's just fun to watch and fun to get into all that stuff. But I don't know. That's sports, right? Sports are sports. So
like watching them. I don't get too invested into them at all.
Did you ever play anything?
I played basketball in high school.
I was going to say you're pretty tall. I bet basketball was in your history. So.
Well, the thing, like when you grow up in a small town, like I'm originally from Winterset, Iowa, which is about 5,000 people, which is not actually a small town. Now that I live in a town of 900, and I've seen, and there's towns in the same county I grew up in that had 60 people, but small town Iowa, especially, and I think this is probably throughout the Midwest, but it's one of those things where based on how you look and how your parents were involved, you're expected to be playing sports. And I was expected to do basketball and football, and people always ask, oh, you must have been real good at basketball, which I wasn't. Full disclosure, right now, terrible at it.
Horrible, huh?
I was terrible at it. I was in this age where I was just figuring out that I had a 6'6" body, and you're trying to figure out what to do with that.
He's just gangly, like walking around.
No, it was like a bunch of spaghetti on a string.
My hands are way too far away from my elbows.
When I'm laying in bed, I still look down at my feet and think that's a distance that's measurable between what I'm looking at and my feet with a yardstick. And it blows my mind that I've also touched those toes before.
Oh, that's funny.
And now that's now when I have a grasp on it. But when I was in high school and playing basketball, had no grasp on that at all.
Yeah.
At all. And of course everyone's like, well, why not? Your dad played ball and you're tall. Why? Like, that's everything you need to play basketball.
Yeah, that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Yeah. I was done with that after a couple of years to focus on. Well, I mean, really, I needed to get a job. That was the obvious thing. I had a girlfriend, and parents were saying, you need to have a job. You're going to college. And I just had so much more fun playing guitar.
Yeah.
And here we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how long have you been playing guitar? Like, what got you started on it and moving in this way of starting to write your own stuff and get into the whole music, I don't know, culture or whatever you want to call it?
I mean, I remember when I was about 4, my mom had got an acoustic guitar, and I had no idea how to play it. It was the size of me, and I was just sitting on her bed, just kind of plucking at it and touching it. And I can't recall any sounds I made, but I just remember that moment of being with that guitar.
Sure, yeah.
And then my mom started me on trumpet in 5th grade, going in the concert band there. And I actually started playing guitar out of spite, and I thank my sister for this because she got an electric guitar for Christmas. And it was one of those ones you could buy in a pack from Target.
Oh,
so I think it was like Lion by Washburn.
Lion.
The Strat knockoff. And I was so mad at her because that made her cooler instantly.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'd sneak into her room when she was gone and start trying to play Smoke on the Water because that's when Guitar Hero 1 came out.
And you got to start with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Playing it on the E string and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember that. That's how I started doing it. And then I eventually got my own guitar and I just started learning these songs off of Guitar Hero. And then Bon Jovi songs, REO Speedwagon songs. Stevie Ray Vaughan was a huge influence.
Okay.
For me. Texas blues. That I remember when I first heard Texas Flood on Guitar Hero. I'd never heard a guitar sound like that. Mm-hmm. And I'd never heard just the wailingness of it, and I could not believe it. And it really captivated me into learning blues guitar, which was my first real, I'd say, affliction on this planet, was playing the blues guitar.
Okay.
Good old 12-bar blues.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of backing tracks on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
At all. And so
yeah. It's easy to do. You throw them on, they go for hours,
For my first gig, I remember my dad used to have a bunch of friends over, and they'd grill steaks and smoke cigars and drink whiskey. Just the most masculine group of guys doing the most masculine
Sitting
things.
Sitting in the back of the bar, brooding in the shadows, those types of guys.
And exactly, yes. They'd sit on the porch, and my dad would have me put my amp out the window, and I'd put these backing tracks on and just play blues guitar to them, and they'd pass around a hat and
check that out.
I made $70 on my first gig ever.
Wow,
which is better than a lot of the gigs I play
better
now.
Than most people. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's a good way to start.
Yeah, it was good.
Maybe because all of a sudden you're like, well, this happens every time, I might as well keep doing it. And
yeah.
Then the next gig, like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you? So when you said you mentioned. Like learning from Guitar Hero. So it was like you would hear a song on Guitar Hero, like dig it and go hunt it down and learn it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was mainly by ear. I really learned music by ear a lot. I just for me, it's always been real natural to listen to and hear things and emulate. That's in a lot of different mediums. Like with guitar, I could hear and learn where those chords were at and figure out how they made a certain sound based on the area of the neck they were playing those two notes in too. So, and I just, same thing with a lot of my early blues licks is just you'd listen to a Stevie Ray Vaughan track and you'd try and catch it, because at the time I wasn't aware of software to slow down music, and really there wasn't a market for that just yet.
Right.
This was around the time that the first iPad was introduced, and so I was just playing these YouTube videos and listening to that lick and just trying to catch this 5 seconds, go back and do it. And I mean, it's been a very advantageous thing for me for a long time. It's just having grown up learning music by ear, just having this natural inclination to go based on the ear, which meant when I went to college, I had a lot of compensating to do to learn the technical, the appropriate, the theory and all that. And so I was very off kilter when I first went to college.
Was that hard?
Yeah. College.
Hard switch.
Smoked me.
I've got
good.
a friend of mine that same thing. He went to college and got into jazz and, the jazz band, I think there. And, he had a really, really hard time just switching over. I mean, he knew it and he could nail it. Like the teacher would. Are they teachers or they're professors in college? Come on, get it together. But he would like holler out some random chord, and my buddy could hit it right away. Mm-hmm. But as far as like the theory and the note sheet or whatever you want to call it, the sheet music, I guess it's just. There's a lot of people that's just not the thing anymore. Some people are afraid like that's just going to fade away of having that. I don't think music? I mean, as far as that being like the predominant way and the quote unquote right way to learn music. I think there's certain genres where it'll always be the case, like classical music. If you're in an orchestra or something like that, of course, But as far as the singer-songwriter types, the folk music, that kind of thing, it's it doesn't. I don't know. It holds value, but you can get to where you want to go quicker without it. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm completely wrong. You correct me on this.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. I've definitely had this duality of existence where I grew up as a blues guitarist, a young aspiring singer-songwriter. I was listening to John Denver, and I was listening to Jim Croce. I was listening to the biggest inspiration for me was Chris Whitley, who he was a slide guitar player, and you tend to think of slide guitar as a one-trick pony, and you got the open tuning and you just do the blue stuff. But he was doing these crazy complex jazz chords, quote unquote, and had this very smoky, sultry voice along with it, where he would just bring you to another place. So I had that duality where I was growing up with the songwriting aspect, learning from ear, just playing the bar chords and learning all that. But then I also went to school. And I learned upright bass, double bass, and I played in orchestras. I played in jazz bands. Anything that called for something like that. And so I've had this. A lot of people that went to music school had only ever done the academic side. Instruments like, when you're a clarinet player, you learn clarinet by reading music, and you learn it by playing in groups in high school. You play in your concert band, and if you have an orchestra, if you're lucky, in Iowa especially, but. So I came to college and lived this dual life throughout college of having both a songwriter, self-promoting life along with the academic circuit, the things that come with being in academia. So, because it's very different. And I feel like people oftentimes come out as musicians very unbalanced on either side, because songwriters often have the feel, and we have the ability to express a lot of things a little bit more clearly, and the ability to make connections and send a cold email that's going to get a response. Yeah. You know how to kind of market yourself. But at the same time, academic musicians understand how important efficient rehearsal time is.
Sure.
They understand how important it is to be prepared and make a good impression, and they understand how quick it is to get to the point you want to convey when you know the theory and you know how to, if you're working with musicians that all can read music and all that, it's easy to get on the same page. Versus because there's advantages to both. And that's the thing.
I've never thought of it that way. Yeah.
Well, when people ask about music school, the biggest thing I'd say that I got out of music school was the ability to maximize time because I had plenty of experiences in college where I didn't do that on my own. So I showed up to a rehearsal and made a complete idiot of myself. And you feel like an idiot, and your professor wants you to know that you look like an idiot too.
Yeah.
And they won't say it, but you feel it.
Yeah.
And I can recall several instances of that where I know if I'm not getting that call again for a while unless something else happens and I prove myself. But
is it just a matter of there's like a prepared something that you should have prepared that you should have known when you walk into that rehearsal and you feel like a complete ass, or is it? Or what does that look like? What do you mean when you say like you go in and you're clearly not prepared and the professor's making you know? Give me an example, I guess.
You're sending me back here to some bad experiences. It's 100% about the kind of music, the way that music operates on the academic side. Oftentimes, you don't get more than one or two rehearsal. Like in the professional circuit of jazz and classical music, you have, classical music, you might have a week of rehearsals, 4 rehearsals before the concert, and you're getting paid for those rehearsals and you're getting paid for the concert. And if you don't show up ready and you're just making an ass of yourself, you're not going to get that call next time, versus people that aren't in that setting. I'm sure you've experienced it, or if you've ever been in like a band, if you formed a band with your friends and your buddies, there's no time constraints. Sometimes you're just meeting on a weekly basis, trying to book gigs. And so you might go there and spend 2 hours and really feel like you wasted time. And not everyone got to say what they wanted to say because no one wants to tread on anyone's toes.
Sure.
When you're in a band like that. And I had that experience in college because I had a band. And we were starting to get a decent following, and just, you get to that point where you start getting emails from people you've never met saying, hey, we saw your music and we actually want to book you for this. Mm-hmm. But if you don't maximize that time with those people, you feel like you're wasting their time. And
sure.
I was the band leader, and I definitely felt I was wasting people's time, and it made rehearsals full of anxiety. And I didn't want to say anything that would make someone want to leave rehearsal early. And people just stop saying what's on their mind, and you don't get anything done. Versus, academic side, you get a call 2 weeks and they say, hey, the gig is here. We're going to rehearse that day in the morning. Here's the music. You have 2 weeks to learn it. And
show up ready.
You show up and you get paid, you do the thing. And that's what I've been doing since I went solo. That is really effective. And I think that's how all musicians should approach it. Is you should try and reduce the number of rehearsals you have so that they feel like they're worth time. Because I know a lot of people that are in these bands, everyone has, unless you're a full-time musician, you have a job.
Yeah.
And you have a family, or you have social commitments, you have volunteer things. And the moment that you take someone away from that, you damn well better make sure that 2 hours that you made them make in their life is going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn that until about my senior year of college. And
gotcha.
It completely changed the opportunities I was getting, and it changed the ability to make sense of those opportunities. Whereas before, I definitely was not on that track of efficiency, and you lose so much opportunity that way.
Yeah, I totally understand. Like it's like scheduling when you have a band is insanely difficult if you have a busy life outside of your music career. Yep. A lot of my friends that have bands, like they have like a night. Oh, it's Thursday night, we go and we practice. It's Tuesday night, that's when we practice, But there's no time schedule for that night. It's like we get together, and when we're done, we're done. Or they have it like set 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever the case may be. Like for me, it's like, okay, I might have 45 minutes. If we want to practice Tuesday, like we're showing up, we're practicing these 3 songs, and we're done, because I don't have a lot of time, Right. And when I tried to not do it that way, when I tried to just make it kind of flow, or just, I don't know, whenever we're done, yeah, you're right. It's a completely inefficient use of time, because you're like, we have all the time in the world. So you don't actually do anything, And so, I mean, a lot of what I do now is solo or duo, because it's a lot easier than trying to wrangle 4 to 5 guys or, girls together, and it's just, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
And the thing with the band is, if you have a band, people want to see the members of the band. They want to see the personalities of each person.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of it. And in a band setting, I understand when people want to get together to be creative and bounce ideas off each other and jam and just kind of continue that songwriting process. But if you're still meeting and you're not doing that, and you're just kind of going over things that you've already done that should have been nailed by now, people start to wonder, like, what am I doing in this group? Like, is this going anywhere? Whereas before, when it was still fun and you were getting things done, you can overlook a gig that pays $20 to think, oh, I had a good time though. I was hanging out with my friends.
Sure.
And then suddenly, if you're taking away 3 hours of a week and you're a busy person, and you also make that $20 the next week, you think, if I keep making $20 a week for 3 hours, this is not going to be worth my time.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's one of the advantages why I like being a solo songwriter, is because every gig I've done with a full band, we had one rehearsal, and I have this Google Drive. I send it to the people that are on it, and all the people that I have in my band also went to music school, so they understand this importance of efficiency, and they understand like this. We have 2 hours before this gig to get it together, and not only is it important to show up so I don't look like an idiot as the musician that's playing for the solo artist, but also that solo artist trusts that you're going to learn that stuff in 2 weeks. Yeah, and so.
It's like a gun for hire type situation. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm coming into town. I need a drummer.
It's exactly that. Oof. And you can have the most faith in these people and know them personally, and you're still going to be worried as a solo songwriter, because what if they show up and they forgot some important thing, which thankfully I haven't run into yet. Like the band that I play with, love them, and they nail it and just bring it to a whole new level.
Now, you still play with them?
Yeah, when in Iowa. Okay. When I'm returning in Iowa for a couple strings of date, or a couple strings of dates. One is in the end of March. We're doing the 26th through the 29th, and that's going to be in Des Moines and Madison, and then a couple breweries in northern Iowa where we're doing some fundraiser things with them as well. Mm-hmm. And then the next leg is at the end of April, and that we're going to Ohio, North Carolina, Illinois, and I'm touring with. She's a good friend of mine, Christine Mode. Her artist name is Miss Christine, and she spent a good time in Nashville as a songwriter, and she's got a very good following, a great person. Sure. I love her to death, because she's one of those people that taught me how to maximize that time in the studio too, because the album that I'm releasing, 5 of the tracks we recorded in one day, and I had initially called on the band to say, hey, we're going to record one single over the course of this entire 8 hours that I've bought at this studio. And I remember she called me up and said, hey, like, we can do 5. Like, just give us this music, trust us, and be okay with that. A few things might be a little bit different, but people are so much more capable than you think of. Yeah,
well, and 8 hours in the studio is not necessarily cheap. Yeah. So if you can get as much out of it as you can,
Yeah. And it was a very good day. Cool. I if anything, I felt like the weak link on the session, because I had so much worry in my mind about parts. It's like, what if this doesn't come through? And I also have never had to record both the electric guitar and the vocals together. I always, when I play live with the band, it's always acoustic guitar and vocals, and someone else covers the electric guitar parts. And I didn't really realize that until about a week before, and I was scrambling to see how these electric guitar parts work with the voice. Yeah. And so, I was in there thinking like, hey, good job, guys. Let me just go do a couple more takes of my own music.
That's funny.
It was my first time on that go. And that's another experience where you realize efficiency of time that's the most important thing you can learn as a musician, is the efficiency of time. Like the music skills, either you have them or you don't. But the efficiency and maximizing time, you can learn that, and you can make your life better.
Now, when you talk about like rehearsals and stuff like that, as a solo artist, that's just your practice time. Like when you set time aside throughout the week to learn a new song or get your set list ready or something like that, I'm guessing. And when you split from band to solo. Because you had mentioned with the more professional side that you even got paid for the rehearsals. Do you find it difficult to put that rehearsal or practice time in solo when it's like, well, this is just 3 hours out of my Tuesday that, I'm not making any money, and hoping that, I get it all together for a gig or...
I mean, not anymore.
Okay.
There was that when I was in the rock and roll band, we spent so much time in the studio with our final album. It's funny, it was our debut and final album at the same time, but spent so much time putting that thing together, and I was playing these guitar parts. And then we went and did a gig to play all this music, and I realized, holy shit, I have never actually played all these guitar parts through, and I've never sang while playing these guitar parts. We did this gig, and I was like, I'm that was embarrassing.
Fingers
as the
crossed.
Frontman, as a guy that wrote a lot of this, collaborated with the other guy to write a lot of this. So that resulted in some serious looking at my own playing and realizing you got to practice stuff. You can't just fake, especially electric guitar. You get away with a lot. Mm-hmm. And I remember just realizing you got to put just as much time into that as you would putting into the mixing process. You got to put as much time into that as you would learning, a Bach cello suite.
Sure. Yeah.
It's no different. And it's with rock and roll, I feel like that, especially, or just non really academic, quote unquote, music, there's this feeling that you don't need to practice a lot so much for these things, and that you can kind of let it, like the little slip ups, make it authentic and all that, which is, it can.
And if you keep going, no one's going to notice. That's a clever lie I always tell myself.
There's a lot, and being where I was from, Iowa, mainly Cedar Falls especially, there's a lot of what I call bar rock bands, which I will not name any, I'm friends with some people, but it's just, it's bands where it's that grungy,
the rawness of it is what people kind of like. And it's kind of what, I mean, especially if you're in kind of the bar rock feel, like it's kind of what you're going for anyway.
Yeah, and it's great and people love it. But when you have 5 or 6 bands and 3 of them are the same people, just with a different name, it's
like, come on, pick one and stick with it.
And Iowa is strange too, because this is at the risk of people hearing this and maybe judging, but I don't really care, because I've had this conversation with plenty of musicians that feel the same, and I feel like it's pronounced enough to make these assumptions about. And I'm also 24, so I realize I probably am incorrect on a lot of these, and I'll learn as I keep going. But I'm gonna say it now. Cedar Falls, the Iowa scene. You have Cedar Falls, which has the University of Northern Iowa, which is where I went, which has a great music program, awesome jazz, like one of the best jazz schools in the nation, and great classical program, great opera, excellent theater. Like the theater department probably impacted me the most looking back at it, but definitely it's an area where, and then you have outside of that, lots of rock and roll bands and kind of indie psychedelic people, and they're so passionate about it, and there's so many great bands. Like one of my favorite bands is the Hex Girls, and they're just this incredible, awesome pop rock band, and they've got the spirit for it, and they've got all the talent, and they tour all the time. And it's just Cedar Falls doesn't have the capacity. There's only a few venues, and it's just, people tend to not show if they know they can see something later. And you also get a lot of the same people occupying the same venue over and over, which I've been guilty of incredibly.
Yeah.
Which is why I decided, to black out myself until like 4 or 5 months later. Yeah. And it's strange because with Cedar Falls, the music scene there, the academic side does not interact oftentimes with the songwriter outside community of musicians. Like there's not a lot of crossover.
Like it's just a very clear divide.
And unless you're in the program and you have a band as well, people don't tend to show up to the venues to see these traveling bands, which are great, just as valid bands. Yeah. So that's Cedar Falls. It's just full of passion, but just not enough opportunity. And then Des Moines is strange because you have a lot of great musicians there and a lot of capacity for different venues, but a lot of those bands also feel that they saturate the scene. So a lot of them I've noticed recently don't like to play there as much, and they're trying to get out of Des Moines.
Sure.
Because Des Moines can kind of suffocate and, just kind of trap in these bands and keep them there. And that's when people stop showing up.
Well, it's easy to happen too. Like, that's one of the things I always wonder, like when you think of like music hub cities, like there's something about the culture of the city itself that embraced a music culture. It's not just, hey, we had a lot of artists here, so we just started playing. Like, there's opportunity for them. There's places to play. There's, there's a stage in every single place, and there's every night of the week you can find music, and that's a legitimate thing that's needed when you have a saturation of bands like that. But at the same time, I totally get the oversaturation. Like, there's been a few times up here, in a town of 13,000 people, super small. I booked like steady gigs every Friday at the same place, and I'm like, hey, this is great, steady income, I can guarantee on it, and I'm gonna go. But at the same time, like, man, after 3 months of it, like, people just stopped coming because, like, I'll see him next weekend. He's gonna be there again. So why would I go this time? So when I would promote it, it's like, man, am I really asking the same people to come back for a fifth time in a row?
Yeah.
Like, come on, it doesn't work that way.
Well, and I think
I don't want to do that myself,
Yeah. Well, and I think Midwesterners are super apathetic too. It is that sense of, I can see this later.
Right.
And, because I was in I ran a jam session in Waterloo, which is just about, a couple miles away from Cedar Falls, and people didn't show up to that. It was a cool little venue, and we had a great house band that was playing, but people didn't show up to that. So then I started a jam closer, walking distance to campus.
Yeah.
And it was, we started about twice a month, and it was on Monday nights, and people just wouldn't show. But then you get so many people that ask about it, and people that ask when the next one is. And then so I reduced it down to about once a month, and then people just stopped showing up. But then it's weird because people, they ask you like they want it, and then they don't show up.
Yeah.
And because something comes up, or we're too busy, which too busy is the worst excuse ever, and it should be eradicated as humans.
Yeah.
Right now, it just means you didn't want to make the time, which is fine. Just say that. Don't lie to people. But I don't know. I just stopped doing it because, again, you have this school where people are begging for this opportunity, it seems, and then you offer it blatantly, like you put the carrot in front of people's faces and they want apples.
Do you feel like that's why a lot of artists and musicians from the Midwest like move to a coast or move south?
Yes.
Because I definitely see that as a Midwestern feel. We're a lot more, just as a genre of humans, laid back. We go to work, we come home, we don't really feel like doing much, we know I was already out today. I went to work, and then on the weekends it's like we kind of even still have our routine that we do. We have either, if you're a family with small kids, there's typical things you do. If you're not, you have the same bar you always go to, and I don't know, like the times that people would come see me, even at that gig I was at all the time, was when they were already out on their routine of the night and stopped by for 40 minutes and saw me, But it's definitely like a thing. Like a lot of people, and I have a lot of friends and artists that they've moved away, and I think that just always continues to happen. And I don't know, it's an uphill battle, but it's at the same time like changing the Midwestern mindset. I don't know if that should happen. Like there's a place in the world for laid back people, I
agree. And I think musicians should move out of the Midwest. I'm not going to lie. That's it. Get out. Like, seriously, if you're
serious about it. Says the guy who just moved to the Black Hills.
Yeah, that was the thing that I'm really struggling with right now. I'm glad you bring it up, but I left a town that had not a lot of, the state as a whole does not have a lot going on in it music wise, unless I don't know. There's a lot of bands that saturate the scene, and and it's difficult, and that's why it felt weird moving to not even Rapid City, moving to Hill City, because Rapid City is a larger area than I came from, and the whole Black Hills is a larger area with a little bit more opportunity, but definitely still it's not where musicians should move to really grow a career unless it's, there's a great market here in the Black Hills for country cover bands, really cover bands in general. You can book, I know people that play 5 nights in a row and make $300 a night a person, and that's great. But and I remember someone telling me, just do that and you can make some good money. And some people, if that's what you're in for, do that. Mm-hmm. But I don't even know really what I'm trying to do as a musician. And that's been a huge thing for me personally, struggling with, is the fact that I like being a songwriter and I like being, a guy with a guitar that sings about his life. But there's so much of that people don't care. Like that, honestly, people really do not care. Your friends care and other musicians care, but generally people don't care. And it makes it really difficult to decide how much I want to make this into a career.
Sure.
And that's why, for me, I'm exploring other options right now here in the Black Hills, because I've spent my entire life as a musician and done some other things that are creative endeavors, but I need, you need other things in your life that you're interested in, because music can kind of get boring, honestly. Like if I go up there on stage, if I go up on stage and play a song and I tell about, this song is about this time in my life that I was doing that.
Right.
Like everyone's hurt. Like musicians.
Oh, so no one's experienced that before.
We can be some of the most boring people, honestly. Like I'm the worst person to talk to for being inspiring as a musician, because we can be so boring, and I know that.
We can be.
Yeah.
Do you think that's an interesting question? Do you think that a lot of what makes it difficult, where people just don't care anymore, is just because there's so much of it out there? Like you can live in a podunk shack, in nowhere in Nebraska. I'll just throw them under the bus because they're here. But you can hop on the internet and find any kind of music you want in a second.
100%.
So then, like, there's someone down the street playing live music, that's not your forte or whatever the case may be, and it's like, why would I go there? I can just kick it on here or kick on a YouTube show and watch a concert live. I mean, there's value in live music. I'm a huge fan of live shows and that. Sure. But when you're the singer-songwriter type trying to get original music out there, I think the internet has a lot of pros to it because it helps you get out there. At the same time, it puts you in a very big pond.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Maybe you felt this because if you have Instagram, I know you have Instagram, we follow each other, but if you've ever been on Instagram and you're scrolling through, and it's great that tools are more accessible now for musicians. I've talked to people about this, but when anyone can just charge $40 to their debit card to post, to spread a video of them, it's I don't want to overgeneralize, and I feel like I'm getting specific, but it's always some dude sitting on his bed, and he's like playing with, and the filter on the camera is like a VCR filter.
Right. I gotta make this look vintage and old and cool.
Like, that's the thing right now is this indie grunge when they filmed it on like an iPhone 8.
Right.
But like you're sitting there they're sitting in their bedroom singing, and it's like it sounds terrible, and the recording quality is terrible. But they were able to pay $100, and now I have to see this.
Now it's gonna show up on how many people's. I mean, oh my God, I've never heard someone play Wonderwall in their bedroom before.
Well, and I'm a musician, so and when I see that, I automatically, as a person, listen a little more than the average person. So the average person that's scrolling through Instagram and they see my dumb ass sitting on my bed playing a song, playing a cover of Tennessee Whiskey that I paid $40 so that they have to see it now.
Right.
Suddenly, when they see the next video, they're going to scroll past that too, even if it wasn't a paid one. And it's hard because music is not a commodity anymore. I think it should be harder to get people to see your stuff. It really should be, because that's what separates people. Like I absolutely
sometimes. Dig it. I'm trying to like think in my head, like, what would that even look like as far as making it, like, because it's all algorithm based, you know, so and ad sponsor based and everything. So like, how do you change that?
Don't give everyone access. Like, that's it. I would not get access, and
like an X amount of followers, and then you can start buying ads. Or like if you're a legitimate, like if you have a label or a promoter or something like that, maybe the case may be, but just a random person in the room.
It's a trade-off, because on one side you have quality of music is going up because that's what gets people noticed. But you also, if you make it accessible, it brings the quality down. The accessibility goes up. But if you bring accessibility up or back down, quality goes back up. And so it just, you have to find the right place. And I think we're too far on accessibility right now.
Yeah.
Where even me, like, it's the exact same thing where I can pay $40 to have my cover song get forced onto your Instagram feed, and you have no say, and you might hate it. So next time you see someone's video, you don't watch it. Yeah. And so it makes it so that you have to, the analogy I've been using is it's dangling carrots. And this is where I'm struggling as a songwriter to decide how much I want to make that a profession and how much I maybe just want to make it a hobby. It's the fact that I spend my entire time as a musician dangling carrots in front of people, only to find out that people are attracted to the apples someone else is dangling. And so you got to figure out, what are they dangling? And so you're like, oh, I've got beef jerky. So you dangle beef jerky and people love it and come to you. But then you realize you never wanted to sell beef jerky. Yeah. You never wanted to do that. You always wanted to be carrots. Yeah. And now it doesn't have as much meaning anymore as well, even though you've gotten to where you want. And so but
you lose a part of yourself and you're not actually genuine.
Yeah.
Because I get it.
It's super difficult. And I as a 24-year-old that just graduated college and is super, that's still super young. And like, you're super young.
I'm 36. Yeah. I'm not that young.
You can start over at any time.
I'm like due for a midlife crisis. So like I'm at that age, that part of my life,
Please
waiting for it. I did buy clear glasses frames. Maybe that's my like midlife crisis, something different. But.
You're not going to die at 72. You're nowhere close.
Probably not.
That's the thing is, like, I'm at this young point in my life where I have to, I might be so busy right now spending my young life dangling these different carrots, trying to figure out what people want, when I should have been the one biting into those carrots and biting into those apples and figuring out what it is I like doing. And that's why, since I moved here, it's been really difficult, because when I was in the music scene back in Iowa, everything was clear cut, and like, you had to do different things to get people to do stuff. You had to make friends with these people. You had to play these kinds of songs. And I was stuck in that. Now that I'm out here and I have literally none of my friends from college, none of my music friends from Iowa, and I have a lot of time on my own. I go to work typically in the morning, and then when I get off in the afternoon, I usually go home. And by that time, I don't want to come back into Rapid City to do much. Yeah. And so usually I'm just in my room working on whatever projects it is that I have. I've got a lot going on right now. And it's just left me with all this time to realize what I like doing and what I just liked doing because it was what other people were doing. And so like right now for me, I'm definitely struggling as a musician to think if songwriting is something I want to keep up as like, and just go all into as a profession, or if I want to go back to school, learn something different. Philosophy interests me a lot. I spend so much time talking with my friends about stuff. Yeah. About just these, we like to throw questions at each other and see how it goes.
Oh yeah.
Theater. I love theater. And that came really recently, where I did some community productions where I did some acting, and I did a lot of pit orchestras in college. And that is such why it's so attractive to me is because it's a different medium than just writing songs about my life and playing them for people and getting upset when people don't like them and getting excited when people do like them. Like that's so bipolar. Yeah. With, any town of any size can have a singer-songwriter, and they can do whatever they want. But the thing that's reassuring that I like about theater and why it's so appealing is that if you have someplace that has a theater, has a theater troupe, has a production company, it's because that town can sustain it, and people are going to go regardless, and you don't have to get people to go to it. You don't have to rope people in. And so that's a nice addition to being a songwriter. I don't want to replace it, but if I've done some auditions. I'm doing an audition in a couple weeks. I did one for the Black Hills Playhouse. I'm hoping that works out. I'm doing some for the Firehouse Theater over there in Rapid City. Yeah. And, that's in addition to all these gigs I've booked playing guitar and singing. I also, if I get any of these, cast in any of these productions, that is a guarantee that people will be there, and that you just have to worry about perfecting your part. Because everything else is taken care of. The marketing they do for you, the ticket sales they do for you, getting people in the door, they do that. And you just have to really spend more time focusing
on what you actually wanted to do in the first place. Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. And that's why I miss college, is that you don't necessarily have to.
It's all there.
Dangle carrots. I get so tired of it sometimes.
It's the difference of like being in a place where like it's, I mean, as much as college, prepares you, there's a lot of college, at least in my experience, that it was definitely still kind of a bubble, but then when you pop out into the real world, it's like, oh shit, this is not easy. And it's funny that you mentioned like, just, do I want to sell beef jerky when I really want to sell carrots, and I think that's the struggle with every artist, no matter what their medium is do I stay true to myself no matter the results, or do I make something so I can get food to eat, I mean, there's this balance and finding the time to, I don't know, like for me anyway, it's looking at what my responsibilities are and what my passion and desire is, and trying to find that level balance where they meet and just slide perfectly together,
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone thinks they've got it. Oh, I've got this figured out, and I don't know if anyone ever really does. I think it's something you just always have to be aware of and strive for, and that,
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like you mentioned you and your buddies like talk philosophy. Like I freaking love that kind of stuff. I don't have a lot of avenues to do that with. And it's just the way it is right now. I'm actually debating doing a philosophy series on the Heath Bar, so that might actually happen.
Find
just questions. Yeah. Let's talk about the stuff. But
find the Sam Harrises of the Black Hills.
Sam Harris. Yeah. He's an interesting one, man. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm going to say this and then we'll talk about him later, but I feel like he doesn't go far enough.
Really?
Absolutely. I feel like he his critiques and understandings on certain things are just slightly ignorant of where they should be. Dang, and I feel like he could go further if he would just give it the time to do it. Anyway, we'll talk about him later. But no, I mean, you're right. When an artist has that struggle of this is what people want, but this is what I have to offer. What do I do? All of a sudden, you lose something genuine, something authentic, and then you at the same time you're also not putting out the best thing you could do because you don't really care that much about it. You haven't met a lot of people yet, but
I'm working on it.
His name's Andrew Jant. Lives in Rapid City. You've met him.
I have.
Okay. So he is kind of a huge inspiration, at least for me, because he doesn't do country music, lives in South Dakota, and he's kind of killing it. Like, I don't know if you've heard his stuff or listened to it at all, but it is very different from anything else happening around the Black Hills. And
Trap Kid is very different.
Yes, very, very different. And I swear every time he plays one of his songs, it sounds different every time. I'm like, dude, how do you know? But he just does it. But he is fully committed to that, whatever you want to call it, that's what he does. And he's not changing it. And for better or worse, he's fully in, and I don't feel that way all the time. There's a lot of times I will learn songs that I know people want to hear at a bar because it'll keep the night going and make everybody happy. And even if I hate the song or if I've played it 1,000,000 times, it's like, oh my God. Yep. But you do it, and then the songs that I write, I find myself a lot of times not playing out in public because either I just don't feel like it at the time because I know that's not what everyone wants to hear, or I just forget. Because I got this list of requests, in the tip jar. Unfortunately, never the tip jar. They always holler it out, though, but they don't put it on a note with a $5 bill.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, deciding what you want to do as a songwriter, I think is, it can be different. Like you mentioned, playing with an orchestra or playing, upright bass and doing something else doesn't necessarily have to mean you stop writing songs.
Yeah.
But like you said, it can mean that maybe songwriting isn't the career, which it depends on what path you want to go.
Yeah.
Luckily, you're young enough to have some time to figure that out.
That's what's fun is that I am so young and the option overload is kind of scary. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm freshly graduated. I'm single. and I got a job. I've got a car that I can go anywhere with.
Yeah.
Like the options are there. Yeah, it definitely is. I know we met at South Dakota Public Broadcasting.
Yeah.
This guy's singing and playing guitar in an interview, and then and I'm sorry I came here to the podcast, and I'm definitely not the most inspiring songwriter right now. Like I'm more like, yo, fuck music right now. But
that's what makes it great, I mean,
sorry about that for people that were tuning in to
everybody feels that way though.
But I'm definitely very, very realistic about it. I think in a way that a lot of people aren't. And then they get very disappointed.
Yeah.
Which the thing is, like, I'm not disappointed right now about my songwriting. Like, I've never believed in it more because I realize it doesn't have to be the only thing.
Yeah.
And so many people, like, there's no shortage of bearded guys playing acoustic guitar.
No. We're all fucking out there, man.
They're everywhere
with the trucker hat and the plaid shirt, and I've got several that I wear out, and
and we all think we're so interesting, which you can be, but I mean, your music is not what makes you interesting. You as a person is what makes you interesting, and you can't weigh so much into the songwriting that it becomes this unrealistic thing where you get very disappointed when it doesn't go the way you want. It's like right now I don't get disappointed too much because I know that I'm another bearded guy with an acoustic guitar in South Dakota, and I have other options. That's the thing I do have right now going for me is that I grew up playing guitar, and I went to school for jazz guitar initially, and I just I've got a very well-rounded idea about guitar, and I'm blessed with a voice that I was able to get back from the depths when I trashed it in a rock and roll band. I was able to recover that, and I never thought I would. And I'm blessed to have just all these tools. And I went and learned upright bass, and I play classical and jazz music, and I just know how to maximize time. So I have all these opportunities, and people need to figure that out for themselves too, because then you don't ever feel like you're just trapped trying to make it work with the songwriting, which I definitely felt like for a long time. And songwriting, you don't have. I get so mad about this too. Is that you're getting me all riled up?
Dude,
today.
I'm
doing
just
it myself.
gonna sit back and drink. You keep talking, man.
I'm sitting there and I'm going on my. I'm
enjoying
on my
this.
soapbox. But another thing is you don't have to have a shitty life. You don't have to have a hard life to be a songwriter. You can have a great life and things are great and you're rich and all that to be inspiring as well. And so many people I see just put themselves down and think that their life is terrible. And me as one of them, I did that for a long time. I thought that this idea of going through suffering and having inner demons and problems makes you more interesting and makes you a songwriter. But it doesn't. It just makes your life harder to make music. Right. And I will say some of the songs that I find came out the easiest and translated to the guitar a lot simpler were definitely ones that came out of very difficult times.
Sure.
And I understand that value, but I feel like people sometimes subconsciously craft this situation where it's difficult. I don't know if I'll make rent, and I've been drinking too much and all that. It's just stop drinking as much. Then.
I find myself this literally happened to me. I don't know, it was about a year or so ago. I was trying to write a song exactly like what you were describing. Because I've been there in my past, but I was nowhere close to that at the time when I was trying to write this song. And I used the word I can't make the rent, and I'm like, the fuck am I writing a song about rent for? I have a mortgage now, we bought a house. And I put my guitar down and nope, I've got to change my entire mindset because things are really good, And there's songs about that, and I don't know why it feels harder to write songs about good things, but for some reason it does.
That's good.
But I was this is totally not genuine and not real, and I'm just trying to write a song because I feel like I have to because I haven't written one in 4 months, And nope, that's not it.
Yeah.
I gotta buy a fucking mortgage. What the hell?
Dude, I 100%, I feel what you're saying right now because I've spent this entire time crafting up this my persona for music was almost like this Wild West not cowboy, but like ranch hand, hardcore. You know, I've been through life and learned a bunch of stuff. And like, I work over at the Civic Center in Rapid City, and we got the stock show going on, and those guys are real fucking cowboys.
Those are out there really doing it.
I've never even ridden a horse.
Yeah.
I've never sat on a horse and ridden one. And I had this realization, this was pretty recent. I was sitting there thinking like, oh my God, I'm not a cowboy. And like, I wear a cowboy hat for some shows. I got the denim and the boots and all that. It's like, I'm not a cowboy at all.
Yeah.
Which was horrifyingly real at the moment to realize like, oh, this is something I crafted. But also, it again, that realization opened up this thought process where it's like, okay, now I have a blank slate.
Sure.
What am I? And so like, really, since I moved here, everything is upside down. That's what I'm trying to say. But that was
no idea what you are right now, man.
Yeah, these guys literally brought cows here.
Yeah.
In a trailer like that. I've never done anything like that. I've worked a lot of very hard, difficult blue collar jobs. You know, I've worked on the railroad. I had a very country upbringing where we were, you know, hanging out on dirt roads and hiking through the woods. But it's not cowboy and all that.
Right.
And I got songs. You know, I got
it's
a song
Midwestern,
about,
but it's not cowboy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, no, I 100% get that. And you got to be honest with yourself about what your life is actually like. And then you can at least realize if the music you're doing is truthful enough that you feel comfortable with it, and if it's something that people will believe. Yeah, you know, it's
and the difference difficult. With that, like the funny thing is too, like I think about like if I write songs about how my life is now, that I have a wife and kids, and we're doing good, we're happy, and you know it's the typical. I mean, out from the outside perspective, it's a very typical, you know, American life, you know. It's like, oh, you know, things are good, you know. He's got the middle class life going pretty well, you know, and that's fairly new in the past few years, you know. But it's like, God, who wants to hear songs about live, laugh, love? You know what I mean? And like random, you know, gather, you know, things that people put on the table. But I'm like, oh shit, a lot of people would probably buy that. You know, I mean, I'm gonna hate myself, but like,
sign on the door says "Live, Laugh, Love." That's your next hook right there.
I saw something that said, why is there not a country song that's called "Lived, Laughed, Loved, and Left"? I'm like, oh my God, there it is. Because like most of the songs I play are definitely from the country Americana genre, but like when I'm writing my songs, I don't at all feel like they're country unless I force them to be.
Right.
Like there was a while there, like I was in a country band for a while, and I mean we haven't gotten together in like a year, but I like to think we're still a thing, you know. But and I pulled out all the songs the country songs that I had written, you know, to put for that album that we put out on you know, iTunes and Spotify and everything. But when it's just me, like with my guitar writing whatever's coming to my head, it's not country. You know, that's what the latest one I put out, the songs you heard up at the studio in Rapid, South Dakota Public Broadcasting, was not country, but it was fully me, you know, and I'm proud of them, you know, and I know it's not going to go anywhere. I know not a lot of people are going to like it, but fuck it, man. I enjoy him, you know?
I definitely got to say kudos because, you definitely had... I remember sitting there thinking, like, this guy has a lot of control over what he's saying, and I could tell the way you played everything was the way you wanted it to go, and that was really inspiring to watch, too. And you've
cool.
Now, you've got a cool voice because you kind of got, you got the country draw, but you've got this like bird-like vibrato that's just almost like, you ever listen to Coulter Wall?
I love Coulter. I got to open for him.
You what?
Did I tell you this?
No.
Oh, dude.
Get out.
He came to Sturgis last year, and my buddy was the booker for the show, and he's like, hey, we need an opener. It's like, yeah, I'm in.
Oh,
and
my
so I
God.
got to meet him, hang out with him, and open for him, and
oh my!
I was just like, you know, he comes out, him and his band come out for like a song or two, and they heard, you know, listen to me play a few songs. I'm like, I have no idea this is fucking happening right now.
Oh,
like, it's unbelievable, dude.
God,
but he's got
what?
It was amazing. Him and Summer Dean, they were on a tour together. They're still on a tour together, I think.
Let me meet this guy, because if that's the kind of things he's booking opening acts for, let me know.
You need to meet Randy. Yeah, he's
I'll
a
care
solid
about
dude.
Songwriting if that's the case.
Yeah, he's a solid dude, and he's got a lot of that's what he does. That's what he's done for years, booking and radio and everything like that.
Just don't show him the last like 40 minutes of me talking about how much it sucks to be a songwriter.
Worst
and how much
ever.
I don't want to do it. Yeah, here's my friend Clayton here. He's
Yeah.
looking for some gigs. And he shows the podcast like, yo, fuck songwriting.
Call him up. No, but I don't know. Like that was so I grew up on a ranch. So like I definitely did the cowboy thing all through high school. Brandon, horse riding, cutting, all that kind of stuff. But that has not been my life since high school, and I found myself, especially when I moved up here to South Dakota, like I'm still drawn to that culture and that style of music because it's what I grew up on. There's a lot of nostalgia and a lot of the new stuff coming out, not on the radio, but a lot of the other stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
But like me personally, like I have changed so much since high school that when I go to write a song, it's not that. It's just not. And learning to be okay with that, I think was a challenge and was a little bit scary, especially when I put out this latest EP, because it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, what are people going to think,
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. You got a good sound though. Like listen to you, and you got a couple songs on Spotify, or did I miss a bunch?
I've got a couple right
Okay.
now. I just
Because it's Clayton Ryan and the Singing Mountain,
Yeah.
right? Okay, and
that's-
so there's two up there with that.
I originally was going by just the Singing Mountain as my persona because that was a nickname I got from some good friends in Des Moines. That's what just they were calling me, and then they told me one day like, yeah, by the way, we've been referring you to this way. And I was like, oh, that's great. So I started going by that persona, and then I realized really quickly that Clayton Ryan is a name that's also, if you can. They always say if you can brand yourself with your own name, do
Right.
that. And Clayton Ryan, I had plenty of people say like that's a country name right there, and so I changed it to Clayton Ryan, and the Singing Mountain is the band.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got a couple singles up on Spotify right now, and both of them are going on the album that's coming out on March 27th.
Woohoo!
And
It's like a month and a half away, man.
yeah, I had 3 on there, and because I just put one up on, it would have been yesterday or the day before, so February 2nd, and somehow the distributor, who will go unnamed, let's just say they rhyme with Listrolid, and they put it up on Spotify, but they put the artist as Clayton Ryan, comma, the Singing Mountain, which both of those artists don't independently exist on Spotify. So you click on the artist, and like it was under these 2 artists that have no followers or no info, no
my goodness.
picture, no verified artist. So I deleted it, and I had to upload it again. And that was Prairie Fire, which is the one I played
That's a great
on the
song,
Resonator,
man.
and
Yeah.
did a video for that's on my Facebook, which Clayton Ryan, the Singing Mountain. Got to plug that. And
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
put that video up. That's one of those things that makes this inner conflict difficult. Is because there's songs like that remind me I like doing this.
And you got some skill at it, I mean, when you hear songs like that, and especially when it comes out of you, it's like, if this is what I'm writing, like, what happens if I keep at this for 10 years? 20 years? I mean, you never know, because everything develops and gets better over time, supposedly. I don't know, man. Like, I get it.
This is
I
the
absolutely
conflict.
get it.
You are reading this conflict.
100% get it. Because I look at the songs I was writing when I was like consistently writing, and then I look at like when I try to write a song now, and it's like, man, it's a lot harder versus when I was like writing for years. Often, like I came out with some decent songs,
Right.
But it took a couple years, and there are a lot of shitty ones I threw away, but I got to some good ones,
Yeah. Well, for me, the thing about the songwriting that's annoying is that it's easy. It's the part of getting people to follow it and how much, and talking with myself and realizing how much of this do I want to make an active pursuit, because it's a lifestyle, as you know.
Yeah.
Being a self-promoting musician, you got to, instead of just writing these songs now in your daily life, you maybe are thinking, how can I promote this today?
Yeah.
Or you're at dinner with some friends and you think, is this a marketable moment? And you got to learn to balance it so that you can still live a life separate from that songwriting.
Yeah.
But, Prairie Fire came very quickly, and I was at a very difficult time because I was just graduating, and this is, a month and a half ago, mind you, but I was graduating, which I never thought I was going to get to do. College was very difficult at times for me. I had to leave college for a semester and wasn't quite sure if I was going to make rent a lot of college. had a few breakups there and then, and which, always is good for songwriting material.
Gotta love those college breakups, man.
But but Prairie Fire, the Singing Mountain, Clayton Ryan Singing Mountain stuff came often very easily, and so the songwriting part is not hard. It's just getting people to like it and think, do I want to put in that effort? And is that going to occupy my life while I'm missing out on opportunities?
Sure.
Prairie Fire came out in an hour. That was one of those things where I was in a very tough time. Like I was, graduating at the end of the week. I was leaving on that Monday after graduation from Iowa for good. Mm-hmm. Or I guess it was even the day after Christmas for good. Actually, I was out of Iowa on Christmas Day for good. I with at the time no intention of coming back.
Sure. Yeah.
And of course things change, and I still have no idea if I'm going to go back to school there or not. I think about it, but at the time I was, this is a huge change, and it was actually a rather sudden change. I didn't plan on moving that soon, but things came up, difficulties, had another breakup, and realized, I need to get out of here and just be in a different environment. Mm-hmm. And I reconnected with a lot of people at the end of college that I realized, like, you don't really realize how much of an impact you make on those people. You don't realize how much an impact they made on you until you're about to leave them for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And I think I was talking to you and Devin Sance about this, but I met some people too at the end of college I never thought I'd be talking with, and like they made a huge impact on my life in a matter of days. And there's a few of them that I don't talk to anymore, and I just don't know why. And sometimes you just don't get to know why. You really, you got to be okay with that. And that's just how life went. And Prairie Fire is pretty much about that experience where I met someone that really inspired me to pursue a lot of things, and realizing like, life is something that you need to seize and take those opportunities. And like now I don't talk to that person at all, like out of the blue, like completely cut off, and I have no idea why. And you just got to be okay with that. Yeah. Because no one owes you anything on the planet, really. Yeah. You like to think as a person that people do, like I got to know what happened. Like,
we feel like we deserve answers.
Exactly. And I'm terrible at that, and I need to stop it. And it's, you don't get to know that sometimes. And Prairie Fire was just like a matter, there's that persistent line of, will I ever see you again? Or will I see you again? It's like, that's that question. It never gets answered in the song. Yeah. It just
sometimes, happens. Dude, like not having an answer gives breath to something where it can be anything. Right. And so like if you give it an answer, it almost like it dies. Well, that's the answer to that question. That question's over. And I feel like like my favorite questions and stuff are like, if I don't know, then it's just always open, and it can be anything. It can be in like an endless well of resources to pull from, because I don't have the answer. It could be this one day, it could be this the next day. Right. Yeah.
The problem is I speculate on those.
Well, see, that's the problem. Then our head goes to places it shouldn't, and But
I'm getting a lot better at it with like as I came to South Dakota. I've started practicing a lot more mindfulness, and Sam Harris has been an inspiration on that. But also just reading more and spending more time just with myself, analyzing like even such things as, am I breathing fully right now? Yeah. And like you start to realize you can control a lot of that anxiety and stop fantasizing about like, what if I had said this, or what if I had done that? And you realize it doesn't matter, because you're here, you're alive and you're breathing, and everything else is really a bonus. Yeah. So seize all that. Yeah, no, it's been a good experience. I think it was a good decision in the end.
Yeah, and, I get it, man. I'm glad you came. I'm glad you're up here.
I'm glad. People are great here.
I mean, like the fact that you chose the Black Hills and you're up here for however long, if you decide to move away at some point. But I hope you're welcome when you and feel welcome at least. I think you're awesome, and I'm really glad to meet you and for you to be up here in that for a spell at least. But yeah, it's a cool place. I've been up here about a decade or so, and still here, so something must be right. I don't know.
Well, I think I mentioned this to someone today, but it's strange because I came up here at least 2 or 3 times a year for the last couple of years, just because my dad lives up here, and it's always been the closest retreat for me as an Iowan. In one day I can be up in the hills, in the pine forests, and as of yesterday, I stayed about 6 times my normal length that I would be in this state at the time. And, everything's a lot more permanent.
Yeah.
Whereas, I could just soak up the Black Hills vacation life for a week and then I go back home and go back to college after break. But now I'm fully a part of this community, and you have to start making the connections and definitely, I don't know, I'm like not too much into a rush of it for some, I don't know why, but it's just, maybe it's some sort of self-preservation, don't spend your money
it's like just
at the bars.
This inner conflict of, do I fully dive in or, I don't know. Yeah.
I do like
should I learn this person's name, or am I ever really going to see them again? And after you see them 5 different times, it's like, okay, I'm probably going to keep bumping into this person because I live here now. Yeah, I get it.
Well, and it was my first experience with musicians here was not good. I will say that. It was very negative, and I won't, again, no
Was it
names.
my fault? It's because it was totally me, wasn't it?
My first musicians I met, on Monday when we were at South Dakota Public Broadcasting. Bunch of dicks.
They're just horrible people.
Bought me
Took
lunch.
me out to lunch.
Yeah. Took me out to lunch. Got me on their podcast. God, people suck. No, it was... I was at this show, and this kid was doing his thing, and I just met a few musicians, and they were just sitting there shit talking this kid, and like this was my first show I'd been at with and met my first Black Hills musicians, and I'm already this was about 3 weeks in maybe even 2. I'm sitting there realizing I'm already wondering what I'm doing here in the Black Hills, because I spend every night at my dad's cabin just hanging out and not seeing anyone, and I'm still freshly missing my friends and all that opportunity, and I already was kind of off kilter, wondering like, what is this place gonna even do for me? I met these musicians, and a couple of them were just like talking trash about this kid who's just having a blast up there.
Yeah,
I was like, what? Like, is this what the scene's like? Like,
definitely not. But I mean, there's everyone's got people, like that.
And it was someone that people had told me I need to meet, and they're like, oh, this person's great. You should. They got it going, and there's high esteem for him. And then this person's just like talking bad about someone that's like 10 years younger than them, and just having a blast. Like, it left such a bad taste.
Yeah, Sorry that was your first experience.
It was good because the next week I met Tanner Johns.
Yeah.
Joe Klein.
Yeah.
And because Joe Klein messaged me, we were friends because I was looking for a bass player, and he friended me on Facebook, and we started talking. He introduced me to Tanner at Haggerty's, and then it just ended up working out so great because I went and saw Tanner's band play at the Saloon 10, and just we all hung out, and they let me stay at the guest cabin where they housed the band at the top of the hill there, and it was just a great experience, and they were just real good, genuine dudes, and no judgment, just fully open to all these things. And I was like, okay, this is what it's actually like. And then I met Sophia Beatty.
Oh, she's killer voice.
All the whole crew at the Custer Beacon. Yeah. I've always known the people at the Minor, Casey and Charlie and Dave and all that. Like, people go there for those people.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's like, this is what it's actually like. And
so for the most part, it's definitely collaborative versus competitive, definitely. Yeah. At least that's the goal. And that's what, I've been pushing since day one is there's enough to go around. Like, we don't need to have this idea of, I got to get my gig, and if you get a gig, then I didn't get that gig. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, we're all doing something, and we're small enough as far as the music community to be able to sustain that right now, I think. Yeah. So, no, I'm glad you gave it a second chance because most of it is the second way, not the first way. So I get it.
Everything I've seen since is the second way. Like, there's people like that everywhere. And like, I went to college with plenty of people. So it just comes out of insecurity. Yeah. Like, if you don't like something about yourself, you take it out on other people, and that's that's a whole thing. Yeah. And in the end too, even if I don't end up playing these gigs, like, none of the songwriters are gonna, I got the Black Hills Symphony that I'm in now, and like, that's just that's like my safe place. Right. I can just go there. I know what's gonna happen. I have the music. I'm gonna get paid. The people are gonna be at the concert. Yeah. And it's just this nice, peaceful time.
It's gonna be a good experience.
So like, you guys don't have that, so
right. Shit talk all you want, because I got this over here.
Yeah, you can't touch me here. I'm playing the bass.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Where can people find? Where are you at online? Do you have a website or social media? Or what's the deal there?
Yeah, definitely the most helpful is if you follow my Facebook page, and it's Clayton Ryan, the Singing Mountain. Instagram as well. My Instagram is great. I have a lot of fun on that. I get to see my personal life a lot more than Facebook does.
Okay.
And I have a website. No one is going to that. I'll give it to you. It's ClaytonRyanMusic.com.
Okay.
No one's going to go there because you can find everything else everywhere else. But if you're a booking agent,
you got to have it.
You got to have it.
You got to have it.
Spotify, since I know no one likes to pay for music, it's such an inspiring songwriter I am.
You know, that's how it works, man. You're just a realist.
Since no one pays, it's on Spotify, Clayton Ryan, the Singing Mountain. I do have right now, and I'm going to just keep it this way because I like my music being accessible to anyone if they want. It's all on Bandcamp, and it's always going to be on Bandcamp as pay as you want. You can pay nothing if you want. Right now, Prairie Fire is going to, for the foreseeable future, be 100% a donation, a charitable download. So people that download Prairie Fire, the Intrepid Foundation matches 100% of your donations that are going to help victims of the Australian bushfires.
Oh, cool.
And so that song is going to 100% just go towards that.
Yeah.
You can donate $1, you can donate $1,000, and it's going that way, and they will match the donation.
Wow.
And so that's where you can find all that stuff at. I got a YouTube. It helps when people subscribe. It helps when people watch.
Yeah, right.
You know, help me help myself. That's what I tell people.
That's good.
Because honestly, as a musician on social media, I can't really do much to improve your life other than if you like the song and it makes you happy, that's cool. But other than that, I really need people to help me look better for booking agents. That's what it's like. This is the world
game,
we live in, man, and it's super fun.
For better or worse, we've made it that way.
I do like the game. Don't get me wrong.
I'm glad you're in the game.
Yeah.
Let me just put that out. I'm really glad you're in the game because you got talent and you're obviously fucking fun to hang out with, man. So, people go check him out. If you got to listen to him, he's got great stuff. So, dude, this has been fun. That's an hour and a half. Can you believe it?
Man, that
goes quick, doesn't it?
Let's keep going. Let's do 2.
I know. I wish, but I have to pee so bad.
Yeah, good call. We are on our third porter here.
Well, cheers again, man. Thanks so much. I'm glad that we got to do this. I'm glad you're up in the Black Hills, and we'll get you back on again. Let's chat some more.
Yeah, hopefully by that time we'll have a lot more to talk about.
You'll have an album out, right? So we can talk about that.
I'll have an album out. I'll see how these auditions go. I might be in a local production, so I might not even be living here. You never know.
You never know. We'll find you. I'll find you.
Yeah.
I'll be able to find you. All right, man. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Heath Bar with Clayton Ryan. Really hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Anyway, hit me up if you want to get in touch with me. My email, heath@heathbaronline.com. Hope to talk to some of y'all soon. Until next time.